Hello, dearies and dudes. My name is Snyderman, and welcome to Snyderman Teaches, the series that looks at historic events and their importance to modern society. Before we get started, today is the last day for Thankmas. All week long, we've been raising money for families that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. You all have been awesome in donating money. We crushed our $250 goal for this week. Thank you so much. But today is the last day. We can do this. We can donate more money. Even though we've already crushed our goal, there's always more that we can do to help people out. And really, that's what it's all about. It's about helping people. So, let's go. Hit the link below in the description and go donate. But today on Snyderman Teaches, we are going to be looking at the truth behind the three wise men. And here we go. Okay, so before we get started, it should be noted here that this episode of Snyderman Teaches, while dealing with some religion aspects, some Christianity aspects, is going to be more historical than it is theological. In other words, it's going to look at more of the historical fact behind the three wise men rather than the Christianity side. Okay, now that that's out of the way, everyone knows the story or the legend behind the three wise men and their journey to Bethlehem, following a bright star that leads them to Bethlehem to find the baby Jesus in his manger. Okay, that same star that is going to be visible actually December 21st of this year for the first time in 800 years. So that's pretty cool. But these three princes from Arabia are said to have brought baby Jesus frankincense, gold, myrrh, all of these lavish gifts. And this story has lived on over the centuries as a key part of the Christmas story, a key part in the birth of Jesus. And that's where we come in. Is their part in the story that we know actually factual? Because we know that the Bible is really at its heart a story of a faith. It's a story of a religion. And so when we analyze any biblical stories, any biblical tales as source material from a historical perspective, we need to take it with a grain of salt, because it, in the first half, is written by the Hebrew people, so the enemies of the Hebrews aren't portrayed in a great light. And in the second half, the half that talks about the life and the times of Jesus, they're actually written about 40 years after the crucifixion. So we have to analyze these stories from a very unbiased perspective. So you might be shocked to hear this, but there are a few myths around the wise men that we are going to be talking about. Myths that are surrounding their story that's written in Matthew 2 of the Bible. And that's really what's going to be at the heart of this little mini-sode here today. So when it comes to the three wise men, they've been called magi, they've been called kings, they've been called the wise men, but who were they really? Who were they as individuals? And in reality, most likely they were the king's personal advisors. They had responsibilities that included reading the stars, and really, basically, their entire work was around advising the king and being educated enough to advise the king. So that's who these guys probably were. Some early church traditions say that there were 12 instead of 3. So that is something that we kind of are shaky on the details of. Today we choose to honor the idea that there were 3, because 3 is very significant in terms of the number of gifts that were offered to the baby Jesus. Over time, church tradition has even assigned the three wise men names of Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar. So that is kind of the origins, the kind of the beginnings of the three wise men's tale in a nutshell. So let's talk about some myths really quickly. Myth number 1 is there were 3 wise men. In reality, we have no idea. Okay, church tradition says there could have been up to 12, but really we have no idea. So the 3 number, like I said, comes from the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh that were bestowed on baby Jesus. So we don't really know. Not to mention, we don't know how much of each of those things baby Jesus was getting at the time. We don't know the quantity of the gifts, or even if Jesus was the only one given these gifts. We don't really know that, and there's no real way to know any of that information. Myth number 2, they rode camels. That is a very common misconception. Whenever you see movies about this time period, the actors are riding on camels. However, people in northern Arabia typically only rode Arabian horses. So the wise men arriving at Jesus' birthplace on camel is very unlikely. Basically, at the time of Jesus' birth, camels would have been merely pack animals. They would not have been the traditional animal of transport, especially not for royal advisors who would have chosen the faster and the more comfortable ride of a horse. Myth number 3 is they followed a miraculous star. Matthew actually never says that they follow a star. So take that for what you will. Matthew 2, there's really no mention that they followed a star. He says that they saw a star, which history teaches is the Northern Star, the one that's going to show up tomorrow night for the first time in 800 years. And the wise men, they were probably astrologers of some kind. And the star was an astronomical sign they saw that signified the prophecy of a Jewish king. That's the significance of the star. Now, they probably didn't follow it. Okay? So there's that, myth number 3. Myth number 4, we've already touched, is the myth that they were kings. It's really unclear whether or not they were kings, but in all reality, they were probably royal advisors of some kind. They had royal connections, but in terms of them being kings, maybe not. Myth number 5 is probably the most interesting. When you analyze the story behind the 3 wise men, biblical tales and biblical stories like to tell you that these wise men came from Persia, India, and Africa. They had a diverse background. And what we know now is this was actually probably something that was added later. In reality, these 3 kings, the wise men that show up at Jesus' birth, are probably not as diverse as we like to believe they are. They're probably not coming from all these corners of the globe at the time. Instead, they're probably coming from different areas of Arabia, so very geographically similar, and probably very culturally similar as well. So there you have it, the truth behind the 3 wise men. One of my favorite stories from the holiday season. I love the Christmas story out of the Bible. It's great, but we need to analyze it with some historic eyeballs here. That was the story of the 3 wise men in about, let's call it 10 minutes. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Leave me a comment down below, but most importantly, please go donate some more to Thankmas. We've helped so many people this week, and it's been amazing. Let's go help a few more. Have a great day. We'll see you.